As the United States continues to threaten the sovereignty of Greenland and Canada, you might be wondering, what does our Arctic security actually look like?
Canada strongly opposes tariffs over Greenland and calls for focused talks to achieve our shared objectives of security and prosperity in the Arctic.
So who for Canada is actually up there, and how does our presence stack up against other Arctic powers? Mark Lantain is a political science professor at the Arctic University of Norway, and he is joining us this morning. Welcome to Your Morning.
Thank you. Good morning.
So Canada controls a large portion of Arctic territory, at least when you look at it on the map. It is massive, but we have only 8 military bases. When you compare that to other countries like Russia, they have between 30 and 40. So how does Canada's Arctic footprint compare to other countries in the region, and why does ours seem to be so much smaller by comparison?
Yes, in terms of overall facilities, Canada has fewer of them than not only Russia, but in some places in the Nordic region. And I think a lot of that for a very long time had to do with basic geography. There was kind of an old saw that if anyone had attempted to attack Canada or invade Canada from the north, they would very likely need rescuing. But times have changed. The nature of Arctic security has changed quite a bit, and it's no longer just a question of hard military issues, but also areas such as hybrid warfare and the fact that the Arctic is becoming much more crowded.
Is there also the idea perhaps that because if you put that map up again, you can see how many bases are in Alaska, for example, that we were reliant on the U.S. to help us protect the North?
Yes, for a long time. Obviously, Canada, with the NORAD agreement and with our geography further away from Russia comparatively than the Nordic region and our proximity to the United States, that also factored into a lot of decisions regarding Canadian Arctic security. Absolutely.
Let's take a closer look at those red dots, which represent Canada's strategic placements. We have, as reported, 100 staffers who are currently posted in the Arctic. But what are their roles? What are their jobs?
They perform a variety of roles, including monitoring, information gathering, in cases search and rescue, and basically what has been referred to as domain awareness, to really understand what kind of potential threats and incursions can happen in the Arctic. And one big difference, of course, between the Canadian Arctic and here in the Nordic region is it's a lot more geography to monitor.
Mm-hmm. So then what are the biggest risks of having this limited physical presence in a region that is becoming increasingly strategic?
Yes, well, first of all, we are seeing obviously a great deal of increased Russian military activity in the Arctic. We're seeing a lot of interest in the Arctic from non-Arctic players such as China. And with the melting of the ice cap, with increasing interest in Arctic resources, we are seeing a lot more potential challenges which could affect Canada's Arctic security and its ability to monitor and ensure the safety of the region.
What kinds of conversations are you having now that you were not having before about Arctic security and what we do with Canada's North?
Well, there's been a lot of discussions. For example, there have been, over the past 2 years, renewed Arctic policy papers and defense papers from the Canadian government, and they really reflect how some of the conversations have changed. Concerns about hybrid warfare, concerns about direct attack on Arctic infrastructure, everything from drones to cable cuts to sabotage. So the whole area of Arctic security has become more complex. And one very positive step in the right direction is we're seeing a lot more dialogue between Canada and the Nordic region, Canada and medium powers, in keeping with Prime Minister Carney's statements yesterday. Yes, exactly. The Nordic Baltic 8 as well.
So then one last question for you. If we are looking to expand and expand quickly into our north, we just did an interview about expanding even at one port in Canada is in the billions of dollars for this project. What could or should expansion look like to secure Canada's north and sovereignty in the north?
Yeah. There's been a lot of discussion. In addition to the possibility of more military and civilian assets in the Arctic, there have also been calls to make greater use, for example, of the Canadian Rangers, as well as to expand Canada's Coast Guard visibility. So there are all kinds of different solutions that not only can come from within Canada, but also in cooperation with other like-minded Arctic states. So a lot of potential there, but there's still a lot of work to do.
And a lot of concern as well. Mark Lantain joining us from Norway this morning. Appreciate your insights. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you like that video, make sure to subscribe to the Your Morning YouTube feed, where you can find all kinds of new content posted every weekday morning.